You do not belong in this academy, human. Kaler Vin said it loudly enough for 600 cadets to hear, and then he drove his fist straight into Ryan Walker's training guard. The impact knocked Ryan backward onto the padded floor of Orion Academy's combat hall, and for half a second, nobody made a sound. Then the medical system erupted. Human cadet down. Injury threshold exceeded. Medical team respond. Kaler lowered his arm and turned toward the stands with the satisfied look of someone who had just settled an argument that had been bothering him for weeks. Around him, cadets from 23 worlds began murmuring. Some looked concerned. Others looked relieved. The human experiment, apparently, had ended exactly where they expected it to end. Mara Vey did not join them. She stared at the telemetry floating above the arena. The system had measured Kaler's strike, compared it against Ryan's biological profile, and reached a simple conclusion. Ryan Walker should not be getting up. Hey! The single word came from behind Kaler. The room went quiet again. Kaler slowly turned. Ryan was sitting upright, one hand against the floor, blinking like a guy who had just walked into a cabinet door before his first cup of coffee. He touched his cheek, worked his jaw carefully, then ran his tongue across his teeth. His expression changed. Not anger. Annoyance. Great, Ryan muttered. I think you loosened one. The medical officer stopped at the edge of the mat. Cadet Walker, remain still. I'm fine. The system disagrees. Yeah, well, the system isn't paying my dental bill. A few cadets laughed before realizing Kaler was staring at them. Ryan planted one foot beneath himself and stood. No dramatic pose. No clenched fists. He simply adjusted the collar of his gray training uniform and looked toward Instructor Hale. Does that count as his point? Hale stared at him. Ryan, he just hit you with enough force to trigger an emergency response. So yes. That earned another nervous laugh. Kaler's face hardened. He was 7 feet 4 inches tall, broad even by Varkesh standards, with blue-gray skin and the posture of someone raised to believe rooms naturally made space for him. Ryan stood barely 6 feet. No armor plating. No reinforced joints. Nothing about him looked impressive beside Kaler. That was precisely why Kaler had wanted this match. For 3 weeks, he had told anyone willing to listen that Earth's reputation was exaggerated, that calling humans deathworlders was marketing, not biology. Now the human was standing in front of him after taking the cleanest strike Kaler had thrown all semester. You should be unconscious, Kaler said. Ryan glanced toward the medical display. Apparently. Then why are you standing? Ryan considered the question for a moment. Because you're still talking to me. Mara looked back at the numbers. Ryan's pulse was elevated, but already dropping. His balance was stable. His response time was normal. Then she noticed something buried beneath the warning indicators, something the medical computer had not considered important enough to highlight. Ryan's physiological profile had not exceeded its documented maximum during the impact. Not even close. Mara felt the uneasy realization settle in before anyone else in the room understood what they were seeing. The Academy had spent 3 weeks asking how strong the human cadet was. Looking at Ryan now, she realized they had been asking the wrong question. The question was how much of himself Ryan Walker had been deliberately holding back. 3 weeks earlier, Ryan Walker had arrived at Orion Academy carrying one duffel bag, a regulation uniform that fit badly across the shoulders, and a piece of advice from his mother that had sounded ridiculous right up until the shuttle doors opened. Do not make every disagreement an Earth problem. Ryan had laughed when she said it. Standing beneath the Academy's enormous silver entrance arch while hundreds of alien cadets openly stared at him, he finally understood what she meant. Orion had trained officers for nearly 900 years. Its students came from 23 worlds, some with military traditions older than the United States. Ryan was the first human cadet admitted through the new exchange program, which meant everybody already had an opinion about him before he found his room. Most expected something impressive. Earth was a death world, after all. Then Ryan showed up looking like an ordinary 20-year-old from Colorado Springs. No claws. No armored skin. No intimidating size. By the end of his first physical assessment, disappointment had spread through the class. Ryan finished 12th in the mile endurance circuit, 14th in obstacle navigation, and 11th in weighted transport. Never terrible. Never remarkable. Kaler Vin noticed immediately. That is the famous human endurance, he asked after the second assessment. Ryan was drinking water beside the track. That is Tuesday morning endurance. Kaler waited for more. Ryan screwed the cap onto his bottle and walked away. That bothered Kaler more than an insult would have. Over the next 2 weeks, the same pattern repeated. Ryan passed everything. He dominated nothing. During tactical simulations, he completed the objective and stopped collecting points. During strength evaluations, he reached the required load and set it down. When Instructor Hale offered bonus credit for continuing a gravity drill beyond the 8-minute requirement, Ryan stepped off the platform at 8 minutes and 3 seconds. "You had more left," Marave said afterward. Ryan wiped sweat from his forehead. "Probably. Then why stop?" "Because 8 minutes was passing." Mara stared at him. "You crossed 40 light-years to attend the most competitive military academy in this sector, and you are satisfied with passing?" Ryan smiled. "I crossed 40 light-years to graduate." She thought he was joking. He was not. Kaler saw something different. To him, Ryan was protecting himself from public failure, doing just enough to preserve Earth's reputation without risking a real comparison. That belief lasted until the maintenance exercise in Hangar 6. Mara was working 12 feet above the deck when a training platform unexpectedly shifted beneath her boots. Her safety tether caught against the railing instead of locking. She slipped over the edge. Ryan was below, checking a cargo manifest. He looked up, dropped the tablet, and moved. Mara barely had time to shout before Ryan caught her forearm with one hand. His boots slid several inches across the deck, then stopped. For one strange second, they simply stared at each other, Mara hanging above the floor while Ryan held her entire weight without calling for help. Then he guided her toward the lower platform until her boots found metal. "You good?" he asked. Mara nodded slowly. Across the hangar, Kaler had seen everything. So had the load sensor beneath Ryan's boots. A warning light flashed on the nearby console, recording a force spike far above anything Ryan had produced during official testing. Ryan noticed it. Kaler noticed Ryan noticing it. Their eyes met across the hangar. Ryan picked up his tablet and quietly returned to work. Kaler did not. For the first time, he was no longer wondering whether the human was weak. He was wondering why the human wanted everyone to think he was. Kaler waited until Mara had left Hangar 6 before walking over to the load console. Ryan was 20 feet away, pretending to be very interested in a cargo manifest. Kaler pulled up the sensor history and froze. The spike had lasted less than 2 seconds, but it was there. Ryan had produced nearly twice the force recorded during his official strength evaluation. "Interesting," Kaler said. Ryan kept reading. "Cargo inventory usually is not. You falsified your assessment." That got Ryan to look up. "No, I did not." Kaler turned the display toward him. "Then explain this." Ryan glanced at the numbers. Mara was falling. "That does not explain why you concealed your physical capacity." Ryan set the tablet down. "Nobody asked for my maximum. The purpose of an assessment is to determine capability. The instructions said move the required load. I moved it." Kaler stepped closer. "You enjoy making fools of us." Ryan studied him for a moment. "I barely know you." That answer followed Kaler all the way back to the cadet wing. He had grown up on Varkesh Prime in a family where performance was identity. His father commanded planetary security. His older sister had graduated first in her Orion class. Kaler had arrived expecting to continue the pattern, and until Ryan appeared, he had. Now a human who seemed almost aggressively ordinary was making the Academy's measurements look incomplete. Kaler needed to know why. The next morning, the gravity endurance schedule changed. Instructor Hale announced that the class would train at 1.6 standard Earth gravity instead of 1.3. Ryan looked toward the control booth. Kaler was already watching him. Ryan said nothing. He completed the required 8 minutes and stepped off at 8 minutes and 4 seconds. 2 days later, the obstacle course was extended by another quarter-mile. Ryan finished 9th. During navigation drills, Kaler assigned him the heaviest field pack. Ryan finished 10th. Every attempt produced the same maddening result. Ryan passed. Ryan stopped. Ryan went to lunch. Mara finally cornered him outside the dining hall. "He is testing you. I noticed. And you are letting him." Ryan looked through the glass doors at Kaler sitting with the senior cadets. "He wants a reaction. Maybe you should give him one." "My mother would disagree." Mara almost smiled. "Your mother sounds terrifying." "Elementary school principal." "Same thing." The humor disappeared when an alarm sounded from the training tower that afternoon. A malfunction had locked a group of first-year cadets inside an elevated simulation chamber while the environmental system began shutting down. Instructors rushed toward the control station. Ryan and Mara were crossing the courtyard when they heard someone call from above. Ryan stopped. That is not a drill. Mara checked the emergency display. Maintenance says the manual release is jammed. Ryan was already moving. They reached the tower as Kaler came from the opposite side. Instructor Hale ordered everyone back, but Ryan looked up at the external service ladder. 60 feet. No active lift. No automated safety system. Kaler followed his gaze. You cannot reach them before emergency crews arrive. Ryan pulled off his uniform jacket and handed it to Mara. Maybe. Walker, Hale warned. Ryan grabbed the first rung. They are running out of air. Kaler stepped forward. Then prove it, human. Ryan looked down at him, calm as ever. This is not about proving anything. Then he started climbing, and for the first time since arriving at Orion Academy, Ryan Walker stopped caring who was keeping score. Ryan climbed fast, but not recklessly. At 30 feet, the wind coming off Orion Academy's western ridge caught his uniform shirt and pressed it against the tower. At 45, the metal ladder began vibrating beneath his hands. Walker, stop. Instructor Hale called through the emergency channel. Rescue personnel are 90 seconds out. Ryan looked through the narrow window above him. Inside, for first-year cadets were crowded near the sealed door. One was sitting on the floor. They do not have 90 seconds. He kept moving. Mara stood beside the control station, watching the chamber readings fall. Oxygen is dropping faster than predicted. Kaler looked up. Why? The ventilation shutters closed with the environmental system. For cadets are breathing what is left in a sealed room. Ryan reached the service platform and pulled himself over the railing. The emergency panel beside the chamber door flashed red. He tried the manual release. Nothing. Jammed, Ryan said. There should be a mechanical override, Hale replied. There is. Ryan pulled the cover open. It is bent. Kaler heard that and moved toward the ladder. Hale blocked him. Where are you going? To assist. You said he could not reach them. Kaler stared upward. I was incorrect. Ryan braced one boot against the wall and pulled on the override lever. It moved half an inch, then stopped. The cadet behind the window lifted a hand weakly. Ryan exhaled and changed position. Mara, tell me when the pressure equalizes. Ryan, what are you doing? Opening the door. The actuator is rated for 1,200 pounds. Good to know. He wrapped both hands around the lever. For the first time, there was nothing casual about him. His shoulders tightened. His breathing changed. The metal mechanism gave a sharp mechanical pop and moved another inch. Down below, Kaler stared at the load reading. It climbed past Ryan's academy record, then past the number from Hangar 6. That sensor is malfunctioning, he said. Mara did not look away. No, it is not. The lever finally dropped into the emergency position. Pressure moving, Mara called. Wait. Ryan held still. 5 seconds. 10. Now. Ryan pulled the door open and dropped to one knee as the first cadet stumbled toward him. Easy. One at a time. Nobody is racing. He guided the smaller cadets onto the service platform, keeping his voice steady until the last one emerged. Rescue crews reached the tower moments later. By the time Ryan returned to the courtyard, the cheering had already started. He hated it. He accepted his jacket from Mara and immediately looked for the nearest exit. Kaler stepped into his path. You lied. Ryan stopped. About what? Your strength. I never told you I was weak. You allowed everyone to believe it. Ryan's expression tightened. I came here to learn, Kaler, not perform tricks, because somebody wants to know what the human can do. Then fight me. The courtyard fell quiet. Ryan glanced around at the cadets gathering near them. No, Kaler stepped closer. You hide during every assessment. You refuse every challenge. Now you expect us to believe that restraint is some kind of virtue. Ryan looked him directly in the eyes. I expect you to leave me alone. Kaler smiled without humor. Founder's trial. Combat evaluation. Tomorrow. Find somebody else. Afraid. Ryan started walking away. Kaler's next words stopped him. Or did Earth send you here because humans only look impressive when nobody is allowed to test them? Ryan stood motionless for several seconds. Then he looked toward Instructor Hale. Hale did not intervene. Across the courtyard, Commander Laura Bennett had arrived during the rescue. She met Ryan's eyes and gave him no rescue either. Follow Academy rules, she said. Ryan understood what she meant. Kaler did not. Ryan turned back. All right. Kaler straightened. Ryan's voice remained quiet. Tomorrow, one match. Then this ends. By noon the next day, every seat in the combat hall was taken. Ryan stood at the edge of the training floor adjusting the straps on his protective vest while Mara watched from behind the safety rail. You can still walk away, she said. Ryan checked the final buckle. I tried that yesterday. I mean actually walk away. Ryan looked across the arena. Kaler was warming up beneath the Varkesh banner, surrounded by cadets who had spent the morning treating the match like a championship game. Then he keeps doing this, Ryan said. Maybe not to me. Maybe to the next human who comes here. Mara studied him. So now you want to win? Ryan shook his head. I want him to stop. Commander Bennett approached from behind them. Remember what I told you. Follow Academy rules. Every one of them. Ryan understood the emphasis. He stepped onto the floor. Instructor Hale activated the scoring system and addressed both cadets. The rules were simple. Controlled contact, no deliberate injury, 3 confirmed scoring actions to win. Kaler immediately took the center. Ryan stayed light on his feet and kept his hands up. The opening minute frustrated everyone. Kaler advanced. Ryan moved away. Kaler tried to corner him. Ryan slipped past. No counterattack. No attempt to score. The crowd began murmuring. Fight me, Kaler said. We are fighting. You are running. I'm standing right here. Kaler reset his stance. You embarrassed this academy yesterday. Ryan frowned. I helped 4 cadets. You revealed that our evaluations mean nothing. That sounds like a problem with the evaluations. Kaler's composure finally cracked. If humans belong here, prove it. Ryan glanced toward Bennett. She gave him nothing. Then he looked at Mara. She was watching Kaler, not him. Ryan slowly lowered his hands. Okay, he said. Hit me. Kaler hesitated. What? You want your answer. Take your shot. Hale stepped forward. Walker. It is legal contact, sir. Ryan faced Kaler again. Go ahead. Kaler moved. The contact came fast enough that several spectators missed it. Ryan was knocked backward and landed on the padded floor. Medical alarms immediately sounded. That was the moment everyone would remember later. The moment from which the Academy's entire understanding of humans began to unravel. Ryan sat up, checked his jaw, and stood. Kaler stared at him. You should be unconscious. Apparently. Hale started toward them. Ryan raised one hand. I am okay, sir. Kaler looked almost offended by the answer. He advanced again. This time Ryan moved. Half a step. Nothing more. Kaler's second attempt passed harmlessly beside him. Ryan caught Kaler's wrist and planted his feet. Kaler tried to pull free. He could not. Confusion crossed his face. He shifted his weight and tried again. Ryan did not move. The hall became completely silent. Kaler outweighed him by nearly 100 pounds. His species had dominated the Academy's strength rankings for generations. Yet Ryan was holding him in place with an expression closer to concern than effort. Let go, Kaler said. I will. Ryan's voice dropped. When you stop. Kaler pushed harder. A warning tone sounded from his training armor. Structural load approaching safety limit. Ryan released him instantly and stepped back. Kaler stumbled only because he had been pulling so hard against resistance that suddenly vanished. Ryan did not follow. He simply raised his hands again. We done. Nobody laughed this time. High above the floor, Commandant Delos Ryan was staring at the telemetry display. Mara saw his expression change as new numbers appeared beside Ryan's official Academy records. The difference was enormous. Commander Bennett quietly joined him at the console. How long has Earth known? Ryan asked. Bennett looked down at Ryan. Known what? Ryan pointed at the readings. That our human performance data is wrong. Bennett studied the numbers, then shook her head. Your data is accurate, Commandant. Ryan turned toward her. Bennett's expression remained calm. Your mistake was assuming the numbers showed you his limit. The combat hall stayed quiet long after Instructor Hale ended the match. Kaler left without speaking, but Ryan could feel his stare all the way to the doors. An hour later, Ryan sat in the Academy medical wing while a scanner moved slowly around his head. Mara leaned against the wall with her arms folded. So, she said, you could have done that the entire time. Ryan looked at her. Done what? Held Kaler in place like somebody trying to open a stuck pickle jar. Ryan laughed despite himself. That is not what happened. 600 witnesses disagree. The medical officer cleared Ryan and left the room. Commander Bennett entered as the door closed. She carried Ryan's training record on a tablet. Commandant Ryan wants answers. So does everybody else. Then let them ask the right questions. Ryan frowned. Bennett placed the tablet on the table. Every test Ryan had completed appeared beside his biological readings. You never falsified anything. You never ignored an order. You met every required standard. Mara stepped closer, but he always stopped at the standard. Bennett nodded. Human training teaches controlled output, especially around species with different tolerances. Ryan was not hiding because he was afraid of losing. She looked directly at him. He was being careful. By evening, the Academy Review Board had reached the same conclusion. Their measurements were accurate. Their assumptions were not. Orion evaluated most species by peak performance because most cadets were taught to demonstrate maximum capability during testing. Ryan had been raised with the opposite instinct. Save energy. Control force. Do what the situation requires. Do not turn every problem into a contest. The discovery spread through the campus before dinner. Ryan hated every second of it. Cadets stopped talking when he entered rooms. Some stared. Others suddenly became extremely polite. This is worse, Ryan told Mara as they crossed the central courtyard. Yesterday they thought I was useless. Today they think I am a loaded cannon. Give them a week. That is your solution? My solution is tacos. Your cafeteria has finally learned how to make them. Ryan almost answered when a voice came over the courtyard speakers. Cadet Walker. Cadet Venn. Report to Commandant Ryan immediately. Kaler was already waiting inside Ryan's office when Ryan arrived. He looked composed again, almost too composed. Ryan stood behind his desk. Tomorrow begins the Crucible. Ryan knew the name. Everyone did. A 48-hour field examination on the Academy's training moon, designed to test navigation, leadership, rescue procedure, and team survival. Cadet Venn has requested that your two squads compete in the same sector. Ryan continued. Ryan looked at Kaler. Of course he has. Kaler ignored the comment. Combat proved nothing. It proved I need better dental coverage. Ryan nearly smiled, but Kaler did not. You restrain me under controlled conditions. The Crucible tests judgment, endurance, command, things that cannot be hidden behind a single physical advantage. Ryan finally understood. Kaler had changed the game. He no longer wanted to prove that humans were physically weak. He wanted to prove Ryan was a poor officer. That was far more dangerous, because Ryan actually cared about becoming a good one. Fine, Ryan said. Same sector. The following morning, 2 Academy transports descended toward a barren moon covered in black ridges and frozen valleys. Ryan checked his team's oxygen, emergency beacons, and navigation equipment while Mara studied the terrain map beside him. Across the cabin, Kaler sat perfectly still. He had prepared for this his entire life. When the transport touched down, the doors opened onto hard wind and gray daylight. Kaler's squad moved first. Within 4 hours, they were miles ahead. By sunset, Ryan's team had fallen to 7th place because he kept slowing down for weaker cadets. Kaler's voice came over the shared channel. Still holding back, Walker? Ryan looked toward the distant ridge where Kaler's beacon was disappearing. No, he said quietly. I am making sure everybody gets home. Then the sky flashed white. Every navigation display went dark. The ground beneath them shuddered as the Academy communication network vanished from their screens. Mara stared at her dead transmitter. Ryan, that was not part of the test. Miles ahead, Kaler's beacon blinked once. Then it disappeared. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. The dead screens reflected Ryan's face back at him while the wind pushed dust across the frozen valley. Then training took over. Nobody wanders, Ryan said. Mara, count oxygen. Lewis, check emergency power. Carter, eyes on the ridge. Mara opened the manual gauge on her suit. We have about 6 hours at normal use. Make it 8. That is not how oxygen works. Then breathe less dramatically. She gave him a look, but the joke did what Ryan wanted. Everyone started moving instead of staring at the sky. The white flash had been a solar discharge, stronger than anything in the forecast. Their satellite link was gone, navigation was useless, and the automated extraction beacons were not responding. Ryan pulled the paper terrain map from his emergency pouch. Kaler had laughed when he packed it that morning. Now it was the only map they had. His squad was heading northeast, Mara said. They were miles ahead. Ryan nodded. And their beacon disappeared right after the surge. Lewis looked toward the extraction zone. We should head south. Academy protocol says move to the nearest recovery point after communications failure. Correct, Ryan said. So we go south? You do. Mara understood immediately. Ryan, take the team. Stay below the ridgeline. I will catch up. Lewis stared at him. You are going after Vin? I am checking his last known position. He would not do that for you. Ryan tightened the strap on his field pack. Good thing he does not get to make my decisions. Mara stepped beside him. You are not going alone. 20 minutes later, they found the first sign that Kaler's team had run into trouble. A supply marker lay beside a narrow ravine, its emergency light dead. Farther ahead, footprints disappeared beneath fresh dust. Mara crouched beside them. They changed direction. Ryan studied the terrain. Not voluntarily. A low mechanical hum rolled across the valley. Both of them froze. Something moved between the rocks ahead. A training drone emerged, then another. Their blue identification lights had turned amber. Those should be disabled, Mara whispered. Ryan slowly backed toward a stone outcrop. Apparently nobody told them. The drones accelerated. Ryan and Mara moved behind cover as the machines began sweeping the area with active targeting beams. They were designed for exercises, but with the network down they were running an emergency security routine that treated unidentified movement as an intrusion. Ryan grabbed a signal flare from his pack. When I throw this, run right. What are you doing? Giving them something brighter to chase. He tossed the flare across the valley. The drones pivoted toward the heat signature. Now, they moved fast, staying low until the machines passed behind the ridge. Mara looked back. That was your plan. It worked. That does not make it a good plan. That is basically the human engineering motto. Then they heard a voice. Faint. Walker. Ryan stopped. The sound came from beyond the ridge. They climbed over and found Kaler's squad trapped inside a collapsed training checkpoint. Two cadets were helping each other toward an emergency shelter. Kaler was beside a damaged support frame, trying to keep a heavy access panel from sliding across the only open exit. He looked exhausted. For once, there was no arrogance in his face. Only relief. The structure shifted during the surge, he said. We cannot move the panel. Ryan approached the frame. Anybody seriously hurt? No, but our oxygen reserve was damaged. We have less than an hour. Mara checked the route behind them. The drones will circle back. Kaler looked at Ryan. The extraction zone is south. Take your people and go. Ryan set down his pack. Not happening. Walker, this is not your responsibility. Ryan examined the manual release beneath the panel. It was twisted out of alignment. You are an Orion cadet. Kaler said nothing. Ryan looked at him. That makes you my responsibility. A distant mechanical hum returned from the valley. Mara turned toward the ridge. Ryan, we have company. Ryan gripped the release handle. Kaler stared at him. You cannot get everyone out before those drones arrive. Ryan tested the mechanism once, then planted his boots. Then we stopped treating this like a competition. The hum grew louder. Mara looked over the ridge and counted 3 amber lights moving toward them. 2 minutes, maybe less. Ryan studied the damaged checkpoint, the trapped cadets, and the twisted access panel. There was no perfect solution. That actually made things easier. Kaler, get everyone ready to move. Kaler kept one shoulder against the support frame. The panel will slide if I let go. I know. Ryan pulled a compact climbing line from his pack and handed one in to Mara. Loop this around the rear brace. Use the coolant pipe as a lever. Mara understood immediately. That might hold it for 30 seconds. I only need 20. Kaler stared at him. For what? Ryan crouched beside the manual release. To open the exit. That mechanism is carrying more than 1,400 pounds. You keep telling me numbers like they are going to change my mind. Mara secured the line. Ready. Ryan took a breath. Kaler move. Kaler hesitated. Everything in his training told him the human was making a bad calculation. Everything he had seen over the last 3 weeks told him Ryan rarely made careless ones. Kaler stepped away. The line tightened. The pipe bent slightly under the load. Ryan grabbed the release and pulled. Nothing happened. He reset his grip. His arms began shaking. This was different from the arena. Different from Hangar 6. There was no audience to impress and no point to score. There were simply people who needed to get out. Ryan, Mara warned. 20 seconds. He pulled again. The mechanism shifted. Move them. The first cadet squeezed through. Then the second. Kaler guided the others toward the opening while Mara watched the ridge. Drones are close. Ryan's breathing turned rough. His hands were slipping. The panel moved another inch. Last one, Kaler said. Go. You first. Kaler looked at him. Walker. That was not a suggestion. Kaler ducked through the opening. Ryan released the mechanism and followed as the temporary brace gave way behind him. They cleared the checkpoint just as the drones appeared above the ridge. Mara raised the flare launcher. Ryan stopped her. Wait. He looked at the disabled emergency beacon hanging from Kaler's pack. Give me that. It is dead. The transmitter is dead. The battery is not. Ryan opened the casing, removed the power cell, and connected it to the flare's signal contacts. Mara blinked. What exactly are you building? A very expensive flashlight. That is comforting. Ryan activated it and tossed the improvised beacon into an empty maintenance trench 50 yards away. The drones immediately changed course toward the stronger electronic signature. Everybody south, Ryan said. Nobody argued. For the next 2 hours, the two squads moved as one. Ryan gave his spare oxygen canister to a smaller cadet whose reserve was failing. Kayla noticed, but said nothing. When they reached a steep ravine, Ryan organized the stronger cadets at the rear and the tired ones in front. No species rankings. No academy scores. Just whoever could help whoever needed it. Near midnight, lights appeared beyond the southern ridge. Academy rescue vehicles. Mara laughed from pure relief. Kaler stopped walking. Ryan. Ryan turned. What? Why did you come back? We covered this. No. I mean after everything I did. Ryan looked toward the exhausted cadets moving toward safety. Because leaving you there would have made me the person you thought I was. Kaler had no answer. Hours later, aboard the rescue transport, Commandant Ryan reviewed the recovered suit telemetry in silence. He expected to find evidence that Ryan had finally revealed some extraordinary human physical limit. Instead, he found something else. Ryan's output had risen and fallen constantly, depending on who needed help. He had never reached maximum effort during the competition because maximum effort had never been the objective. Ryan looked across the cabin at Ryan sleeping against the wall while Mara guarded the last oxygen bottle beside him. Then he turned to Commander Bennett. We have been teaching cadets how to win for 900 years. Bennett nodded. Ryan looked back at the survivors, Varkesh beside human, predator species beside fragile ones, all brought home by a cadet who had refused to leave anyone behind. Tomorrow, Ryan said quietly, we start teaching them when winning is not the point. 3 days later, Ryan walked back into the same combat hall and immediately wished he had stayed in bed. Every seat was occupied. Cadets filled the aisles, instructors lined the upper gallery, and representatives from the academy board stood beside Commandant Ryan at center floor. Mara leaned toward Ryan. Try not to look terrified. I would rather climb the tower again. That can probably be arranged. Ryan gave her a tired look as Ryan stepped forward. The commandant waited until the room settled. For 900 years, Orion Academy has measured excellence through victory, faster completion, greater strength, higher scores, superior tactical outcomes. We believe these measurements revealed who would become the finest officers. He paused. We were wrong. The silence felt different this time. Nobody was waiting for Ryan to fail. They were listening. Ryan explained that the Crucible investigation had cleared every cadet of wrongdoing. The solar discharge had overwhelmed systems considered impossible to lose simultaneously. The failure had exposed weaknesses in the Academy's technology, but something else had exposed a weakness in its philosophy. When communications failed, our rankings became meaningless. When oxygen became limited, individual scores became meaningless. When cadets were trapped, winning became meaningless. The question was no longer who could finish first. The question was who would turn around. Ryan looked down. He knew what was coming, and he hated being the center of it. Ryan continued. Beginning with the next class, Orion would add restraint, emergency improvisation, mixed species rescue, resource sharing, and team preservation to its core officer curriculum. Combat evaluations would reward control, not merely output. Leadership tests would measure how many people a cadet brought home, not simply how quickly the objective was completed. Ryan glanced at Commander Bennett. She gave him the smallest nod. After the assembly, the hall emptied slowly. Ryan was almost through the doors when Kaler called his name. He turned. The Varkesh cadet stood alone near the training floor. I owe you an apology, Kaler said. Ryan waited. I wanted you to fail because your presence threatened everything I had been taught about strength. When you refused to compete the way I expected, I called it weakness. Ryan shifted his duffel higher on his shoulder. You were not exactly subtle. Kaler almost smiled. There is something I need to know. Okay. Kaler glanced toward the place where their match had happened. That day, could you have struck back? Ryan thought about pretending not to understand. Kaler deserved a straight answer. Yes. Then why did you not? Ryan looked at him for a long moment. Because you were my classmate, not my enemy. Kaler lowered his eyes. That answer seemed to weigh more than any defeat could have. Mara was waiting outside beneath Orion's silver arch. So what happens now? She asked. Ryan looked across the courtyard. First-year cadets were beginning a new rescue exercise. A Varkash student slowed down to help a smaller cadet over an obstacle. Nobody ordered him to. Nobody awarded points. He simply noticed someone struggling and went back. Ryan smiled. Hopefully, I graduate. Months later, the academy removed an old inscription from the entrance to its combat hall. For centuries, it had translated roughly as strength determines victory. Its replacement was shorter. Strength is knowing what not to use. Ryan never asked for his name beneath it, and Ryan never put it there. That was probably why the lesson lasted. Because real strength was never about making everyone else afraid of what you could do. Sometimes it was carrying more than your share. Sometimes it was turning around when everyone else kept moving. And sometimes the strongest thing a person could do was have every reason to hurt someone, every ability to do it, and still choose to bring them home.